Would you ask Ms Upton to come back in, please? All right, Ms Upton, ready to carry on?
I am, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr Kinnear.
Thanks, sir. Ms Upton, going back to the discussions between the LFB and the department regarding the draft GRA 3.2, we don't have any record of a meeting at the end of October 2013, but there is a record of a meeting that was held on the 6th of November 2013. Mr Cowup's recollection was that the meeting was attended by him and Philip Morton of the LFB, and Les Britzman, Anthony Maud and Neil O'Connor on behalf of the department. Were you aware of that particular meeting?
No, I don't think I was.
Peter Cowup said that he wasn't provided with any documents by anyone from the department for the purpose of this meeting. It would appear, therefore, he didn't have the benefit of your comments on the draft GRA 3.2. Does it surprise you that your comments hadn't been forwarded to him, either cut and paste from your email in a separate document or otherwise?
Yes. Yes.
Would that have been the normal course of events?
I suppose the normal course of events would have been to maybe explain why not. They wouldn't necessarily have had to forward those comments if they, didn't agree or there was a difference of opinion or some lack of clarity over it. But I wasn't aware of that being the case, so therefore I am surprised.
Mr Cowup expressed his concerns when he gave evidence that Mr Britzman, in his words, did not properly understand the challenge he was taking on by requesting the rectification of what the department saw as deficiencies in the document at that late stage. Mr Cowup stated that he tried to point out to Mr Britzman, quotes, that you're taking on a very, very significant piece of work, and, quotes, the workload wouldn't just be making the changes, it would be in agreeing the document through another consultation round and the changes that would have come from that. And Mr Cowup considered, and I quote, you were looking at 6 or 9 months duration for that to take place. Were those concerns about time frame and the potential need for a further round of consultation, were they reported back to you?
No, and I suspect they related to things that weren't covered by my changes. I suppose seem quite simple and easy to do. I wasn't aware that they would be. I suppose it's not knowing how the GRA process worked between the department. I wasn't aware of that.
And so you weren't involved in any discussions about whether a further round of consultation was required or not? Were you aware at the time that the department, and I suppose more precisely the CFRA's unit, thought that the required changes to the draft would require in due course a further round of consultation?
No. Were they just my changes? Sorry, I'm overstepping the mark, so I'm just interested. Or whether there were more changes that might have required.
Well, a review of the document, but again prompted by the changes that you made to the document.
Right, no, I wasn't aware.
No. But there were no discussions that you were involved in about the need for a further round of consultation regarding the draft text of GRA 3.2?
No, not that I can remember.
Okay. Now, in your second statement, you said you didn't have any involvement in matters after the meeting on the 6th of November 2013 in making or reviewing any further amendments to the draft before it was eventually sent out for publication later that month. Is that a fair summary of the position?
Yes, I think though I've looked subsequently back, going through the preparing for this evidence, and I think there was a later version dated number 1.8, which I think I probably did see. So I'm just not sure about the dates and the sequencing, about the entire accuracy. That the draft I saw on the 15th was the last one I saw.
Well, can we look at an email thread that took place between the 22nd and 25th of November 2013? We can find that at HOM 000-43991. And if we could start with an email on page 3, and in particular the bottom email on that page, which was sent by Les Britsman on the 22nd of November at 3:47 to Peter Holland, you, Anthony Maud, Brian Martin and others. Now, in the first substantive line, Mr. Britsman said this: following discussions between Peter and Ron Dobson, it was decided to send the GRA out largely in its current form. Now, Peter there will be Peter Holland, I assume. Is that a yes?
I assume so.
Did you have any involvement in or knowledge?
It might have been Peter. Actually, I'm not sure I am. Assuming it could have been Peter Cowap. Too many Peters. Sorry, I don't know if that was Peter.
Okay, well, I think the assumption is it's Peter Holland and Ron Dobson in order to sort out
Right.
the final version of the GRA, but you're not certain.
No, but it follows, yes, because it says at the bottom, I'm happy to meet Peter Cowap, yeah.
Okay. Did you have any involvement in discussions between the department on one side and Ron Dobson on the other?
No.
Now, if we look further up in this email thread, and if we go to the bottom of page 2, there is an email here from you to Dawn Eastmead and Brian Martin later the same day, in which you stated this: "Oh dear, wasted opportunity, poor Les." Now, you commented in your second witness statement that you cannot recall what you meant by this comment. Do you think it was likely that you were referring to GRA 3.2 as being a wasted opportunity, in the sense that the review had presented an opportunity to provide helpful guidance to the sector, but this opportunity had been missed?
Yes, probably. I genuinely can't remember, but that sounds reasonable.
Was there a thought at the time, to the extent you can remember, that in particular the revised draft GRA 3.2 was an opportunity missed to learn the lessons of LACNOR, particularly insofar as they concerned operational firefighting techniques?
Yes, I certainly expected it to have been better.
And if we go further up in this chain, we can see an email from Dawn Eastmead to Neil O'Connor on page 2, sent on the 25th of November at 8:41 a.m, in which she states this, and looking at the final sentence of the first paragraph: the view was that this, the revised version of GRA 3.2, was not fit for purpose, and that it had largely been driven by London's particular concerns, including areas largely driven by the FBU. Did you agree with Dawn Eastman's sentiment that the final revised version of GRA 3.2 was not fit for purpose?
That would have been the version 1.1, 1.3 that we're referring to, the version that was...
Well, it's version 1.3 here, referred to at the top in the heading.
Okay. Yes, I imagine I did.
Was that a widely held view in the department?
I'm not sure how widely it was held, whether it was just me
And Dawn Eastmead.
and Dawn.
Did you know what Neil O'Connor's views on it were? Because wasn't he in charge of the resilience element of fire at the department?
Yeah, he was the director of fire and resilience and emergencies. Yeah, the whole of all responsibilities in relation to fire were under Neil's directorship. And no, I'm not. So no, I'm not sure what his views were on that version of the guidance.
Thank you. Sir, I've come to the end of my prepared questions.
Oh, right.
Might I ask for a quarter of an hour to see if there's anything I've missed off, or indeed to give the opportunity of others to suggest relevant questions arising?
Yes, of course. Well, Ms Upton, you may know that when counsel gets to the end of his prepared questions, we always have a short break to let him check that he hasn't left anything out, and also to allow other people who are following the proceedings from elsewhere to suggest further questions that perhaps we ought to put to you.
Yeah.
So we'll stop there. We'll resume, please, at 2:25 and at that point we'll see whether there are any more questions for you.
Okay,
All
thank
right?
you very
Would
much.
you go to the usher then, please? Thank you. Right, Mr. Kinnear, well, 2:25.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you ask Miss Upton to come back in, please? All right, Miss Upton. Well, we'll see if there are any more questions for you, shall we? Yes, Mr. Kinnear?
Just a few. Could we go to CLG 1004908? Now, you remember earlier on this morning we were talking about whether, and if so, to what extent, you considered retaining the advice of a disability specialist. Miss Upton?
Yes, sorry, yes.
Now, in the email at the top of this page, dated the 12th of September 2011, you wrote to Caroline Bosdett, who's the project manager, and you said in the first paragraph of the email, it would appear that disability discrimination law is formulated quite generally and doesn't have specific provisions for specific situations, e.g. it doesn't tell us what needs to be done in a block of flats. As a result, therefore, I think the point is arguable either way, though of course we'd be very interested in the views of LGID's lawyers, including any DDA specialists, so that's the Disability Discrimination Act specialists, on this when you have them. Now, first of all, do you have any memory of this particular email?
No, I would have mentioned it, no. I'm kind of reassured to see it.
Well, it wasn't raised in your evidence.
No.
And I'm keen, for the sake of fairness to you, to remind you of it. Do you recall asking Caroline Bosdett for her views on retaining disability discrimination specialists?
No, but no.
Do you recall receiving a response?
No, sorry.
Can you remember
I had no-
chasing or at a meeting the issue rearing its head again?
No, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't remember.
Don't worry. There's one final question I'd like to ask you, which is, looking back, do you think things could have been differently or better during your time in the Fire Safety Policy Department?
I do. I think we could have had more resource. I think we genuinely didn't understand the risk, and my team got smaller and smaller, and the emphasis was really on restructuring workforce relationships and governance of fire and rescue authorities, and a kind of reform agenda which was obviously based on austerity and regulation, cutting regulation wherever we could, and if we wanted to introduce legislation, having a regulatory budget, which we had to balance out the cost of that by removing legislation, there wasn't always a sense of, I suppose, proportionality around the regulations that could go. It was a very business-led agenda, which obviously lost sight of it. You could easily lose sight of a lot of very important issues.
Miss Upton, thank you for attending to give evidence. It's much appreciated.
Miss Upton, it's right that I should thank you on behalf of all three members of the panel for coming here to give us your evidence. I know it's been a difficult experience for you, and I'm sorry about that. It's probably gone on a lot longer than you would wish, but I would like you to know that it's been very valuable to hear from you. We're very grateful to you for coming along. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now, of course, you're free to go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Kinnear. Now, we have other witnesses coming, but not, I think, today. Is that right?
That's right, sir. And it's Dame Melanie Dawes tomorrow.
Right. Thank you very much. Well, we'll break at that point, therefore, and resume tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.